I have my beautiful, handsome partner with me, Wild Ketzel, today, and we're going to be talking about relationships and why our relationship is not built on love. And we feel that this is the problem of why people cannot sustain their relationship because you're thinking that it has to be based on this feeling of love and infatuation, and that this person is responsible for your happiness, for your own self-love and everything else.
Yeah, and I would even ask, even to begin, can you define what love is? Because I feel like that word is so elusive in people's minds. Like they don't really have a true understanding of what love even means. They just been sold this idea of love, and a lot of the times when people are talking about love, they're usually talking about affection, right? They're talking about, well, love is when you give each other kisses or when you do this or do that. People have their own definitions of love, even to begin with. So it's so ambiguous that even to say, well, I want love in a relationship, or I'm trying to find love through a relationship. What does that even mean? Like we have to be very logical about this and have a definition for ourselves, because otherwise you're already starting off on the wrong foot. You're just pursuing something that you don't even have a firm grasp on.
Yeah. Well, I want to at least let them know, for those that maybe just found us and don't know our story, as to how, and I call him Rambo, how me and Rambo even got into a relationship. We met each other in a community or a tribe. And within this community, him and I were assigned to be with each other. At first, we did not want to be with each other at all, because that really wasn't our intentions of being there, but just the way that the tribe was moving, that the leader wanted us to be in a relationship, thought it was very conducive for us to be in a relationship. And at the time, it made sense. But I'm going to tell you right now, I initially did not like Rambo, and Rambo didn't like me. We didn't like each other. So to put us in a relationship, I was just like, oh man. But because of the purpose of why we were where we were at, that's why we got into the relationship. So we ended up leaving that community and coming out here on our own. And we still didn't like each other. Regardless, it was just me, him, and our child. We didn't like each other because we really didn't know each other. And we had that one thing in common, was being a part of the community. But ultimately, we did find what we did have in common that helped us build our relationship and have a solid relationship. But I'm telling you right now, our relationship wasn't built because we liked each other. We didn't go out on dates. It wasn't an infatuation. It was a very unusual situation. But it doesn't mean that just because you weren't in the situation that we were in, that you still can't, adhere to these principles. Because I hear a lot about people saying that there's not enough men to go around, but I don't think it's that. I just think that you are just having an intention that is not in your best interest. And so that's how I look at our relationship, is that, yeah, he may not have been someone I was infatuated with, and I may not like him, but there are so many other things that is rewarding in this relationship that I can receive. So where can we start with this? Because like I said, I think no, look. So you go ahead. You give your perspective on how we met, because I gave mine, so it's only fair.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, like you said, we were part of a group. We were part of a community, and in that community, it was suggested that this would be a beneficial thing to the community, that we come together. And so, obviously, like you said, we weren't really attracted to each other in that way. Actually, when I first got there, I was just highly annoyed by some stuff that you did, and just you were very direct and blunt, and I'm like, who does she think she is? Like type of vibe. But needless to say, we were in that situation. We agreed out of our own sovereignty and decision making that we were going
Yeah.
to go along with this, and we had a child out of this relationship, and then we left that and then continued our relationship outside of that community, and still had to learn lessons that were present in the community because they didn't go away just by being out of the community.
Yeah.
So for me, this relationship that we have kind of transcends traditional relationships and what most people are seeking. And when we talk about it, I think that a lot of people might get a sense of a negative connotation or like, oh, like that's unfortunate. But quite to the contrary, this relationship has been very beneficial for both of us, I think, in our own personal growth and development. And that's the thing that we are bringing to the table, that you might be pursuing a relationship from the standpoint of something that ultimately won't benefit you as an individual and won't help you to grow because you're focused on the wrong thing and you're focused on something that is not going to bring that out of you. So, I just think that I want to put that out there and let people know that this has been a great experience. It has been a great experience, but it hasn't been an easy experience and it hasn't been always gratifying and satisfying. The process has been very challenging, but ultimately what has happened, because we have chose to deal with ourselves and to come together and find understanding through tough situations and through both of our perspectives, because we look at the world so differently and our energy is so differently, because we have stayed in the game, we have received the benefits from that, which for me outnumber any of the benefits that you could receive from temporary pleasure and affection that most people are seeking.
Yes. Because I will stand by saying that you do not need love or even need to like the person that you choose to be in a relationship with. It is about purpose. The reason why me and Rambo are together and still together and thriving is because we are focused on the purpose of why we're together. We are focused on the purpose within ourselves. We are focused on the purpose of being parents to our little boy Zen. So as long as we focus on the purpose, things are always going to work out. But when we start going into the feelings of it, because love is just a feeling that you have. When we start going into that space, when we start going into things that don't have anything to do with our purpose, that's when our relationship does not work. And most people are looking for in their relationship to be emotionally validated by that person. You're looking for someone to bring value to you instead of you being aware of what your value is within yourself. I've seen this a lot. And the reason why you're doing that is because you really don't have a purpose as to why you want a relationship. I bet if I ask you right now, all of y'all, why do you want to be in a relationship? Or if you are in a relationship, what is the purpose of your relationship? And 9 times out of 10, most people are not going to say, I'm looking for someone to have purpose with. It is usually about the emotion. It's about sex. It's about the feelings. It's about romance. And we are romanticizing what marriage is. And even though we're not legally married, we are married in the way that we want to be married. We are long-term partners. We have a child. That's like being married. We just choose not to use a governmental paper to solidify what we have. Okay? That's the difference. And I know there's so many people that have so many different types of relationships. So I want to make that clear. This is for any type of relationship with another person, that you need to keep this in mind. What is the purpose of you being in a relationship with a person? I don't care if you're polygamous. What is the purpose of that? Like, what? I don't care if it's in an open relationship. What is the purpose of you being in a relationship with this person? And when you are clear about what that purpose is, that is the foundation. And I don't care what you got going on or what challenges you have, it's that purpose that's going to keep you safe and keep you wanting to be in a relationship, because you're not making it about you anymore. You're making it about the purpose.
And that's what I wanted to point out right now, is that See what you're talking about. What most people are doing is a self-serving approach to relationships. What we have embarked in is a community serving or a world serving approach to relationship, because our relationship is founded on a purpose that's benefiting humanity. Like, our purpose is to enlighten, is to be teachers, is to put ourselves out there and open our life up so that we can be a lesson for other people to learn from. Most people are only approaching relationships from a very individualistic, self-serving perspective. They're looking, well, I want love, I want affection. It's all about what I want. And so I want to make the distinction that this hasn't always been the case. This is a very recent phenomenon, actually. Like, this whole romance and seeking relationships through romance is like a very new thing in modern history. Typically, humans have engaged in relationships, and they have formed unions in order to do things bigger than themselves. So it might have been a kingdom, or it might have been a tribe, to consolidate power in an empire. These are the reasons why people were coming together for financial security, for all these reasons that were bigger than just the individuals. So now we exist in a world where the decisions to form relationships are based on nothing other than the person's own selfish gain.
Yes.
And that's the difference. And when we can see that, well, maybe there is purpose to people coming together, despite they might not be so infatuated with each other. But when they come together, look what they produce. When they come together, look how the world is enriched through their union. And if we look at it from that perspective, well, a lot of relationships would be, a lot of partners would be switched. We would have to switch. If we operated from that, we'd be like, well, those people, they have great affection with each other and sexual compatibility and all these things, but they're not producing nothing. They're not producing nothing for the world. They're not beneficial or enriching the collective. They're just selfishly releasing their desires onto one another. And it's like, okay, that appears like a good thing and everybody's chasing that. But what are the repercussions that we reap as a collective from people being engaged solely in that kind of relationship? And we're not saying that relationships shouldn't have romance or they shouldn't have affection. Obviously, that's a part of it. But the foundation on which things are built, that's where we see it, that it shouldn't be based on those qualities.
All right. So Anoki said, what about wanting to be around with someone you like? It seems like a job and no enjoyment. Well, I'll answer this first, and if you have input, you can share as well. That is the thing. You can go ahead, right? And you could go find you somebody that you like. And there's plenty of people out there that you like. But when you get in a long-term relationship, and I'm sure there are people in here that are in a long-term relationship, you're going to find that you don't like each other every day. Even though we started off not liking each other, I know for a fact you get into these relationships with people and you fall out of love with them, or you stop liking them because you want to know why. Because it's real life. When you are initially meeting someone, you're dating them. They're seeing your representative, you're seeing their representative. You always looking cute, and you always trying to please them, having sex with them anytime they want, and he taking you out to dinner and taking you out to the movies, and it's all good. You go to your house and he go to his house.
It's not real.
But then, when you move in together, that's when it gets real. That's when you actually get to see each other every day, and it's not all fancy. This is when you merge together with the finances and you realize one of you are irresponsible, and then you see maybe one of you is messy and the other one is uptight, and then you might throw a child in there, and then that just completely takes all the sex out of your relationship. And so if your relationship was just built on like, you're going to start being unhappy. Because now you don't like this person and you don't have anything left to make you want to stay. Because the love and like has went out the door because of real life situations. So what we're saying is that, now with Rambo, I do find him attractive. It wasn't like I didn't find him attractive. I at least found him attractive, though, and he at least found me attractive. You know, but it's more to it than that, because you can be with someone that's attractive, and then when you just continue to be with them, they can become ugly. So if you don't have a solid foundation as to why you're wanting to get in a relationship, and then be aware that there are things that are going to trigger you in this relationship that you are responsible for, then you're not going to really be focused on the light, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, things shift, right? Like, and things go through cycles and phases. Like when you engage first in being with somebody, especially, and I think we have to put it in the context of the world that most people are coming from, which is this civilized world where you don't necessarily have to be in a relationship. Like you can do your own thing, which is a lot of what's happening, and a lot of the resistance that we're having in relationships is due to the fact that people have the capacity, the capability to just be by themselves. They be like, well, I'm just by myself. I got my own job. I got my own place. I got my own car. I don't need a partner or nothing, because at the end of the day, I can just fall back on myself. So that's a whole different reality. That hasn't always been the case. That's a pretty new thing that we're able to tap into. So that's changing the dynamics of things, I think, to where people aren't willing to go through much, because at the end of the day, they can always fall back on themselves and what they have for themselves. So yeah, I think that's important to say that, because in other situations, you might not have an option, or it might be so, the situation might be so dependent that you don't focus on yourself. Like your family might be like, you got to marry this person because their family is going to help our family when you guys come together. Like, see, that's what I'm saying. We're just looking at it from like an American perspective of modern culture, but there's been traditionally so many different ways why and reasons why people have come together, other than just like attraction, like or love.
Well, XJ Lovelace said, is love important? You can answer that first.
I mean, like I said at the beginning, what is love? You know, we have to define what love is. And that's different for a lot of people. Some people, when they're talking about love, really they're talking about affection, really they're talking about sexual chemistry, or they're talking about finding somebody's characteristics appealing. What are we talking about when we're talking about love? Or are we talking about the unconditional love, the kind of love you have for a child? Or I just think that it's so vague when we say love that it's hard to even have a consensus when you ask that question for me to answer it. Because, I mean, some people say love is understanding, love is, what is love?
I have an answer for that. The love that is important in your relationship is the love you have for yourself. Okay? The love that you have for yourself is the most important thing that you can give that other person. It is not the responsibility of another person to love you. Because if you are waiting on someone to love you, then that means they control how you feel about yourself. Because you don't know what this person is going through. So if you're waiting on them to show up to love you, it's like you're always going to constantly be waiting. And the love that you give yourself is the most important thing, because when you love yourself, and when you're living a life of loving yourself and actually knowing what that is, because there's a difference, because I see a lot of people talking about they love themselves, and really you don't. You know, you don't love yourself by the actions that you take. But when you love yourself and you're pouring that love that you're giving yourself into the relationship, that's how you can build that love that you're talking about. You feel like that desire that you're talking about. Because when I start seeing my husband coming into loving himself, learning and growing as a man, and really dealing with his own demons and healing, that made me start to love him, start to like him, because I was starting to see him love himself. The love that he was starting to have for himself actually made me want to start loving him or liking him, at least, because it's like you coming into your power. And that is the reason why women want the man that has all the money, or if you in the hood, you want the biggest dope boy, because they exude some type of power. Well, the type of woman I am, when I see a man knowing how to communicate or loving himself and coming to his purpose, that is very powerful to me. And in knowing who you are, okay, knowing that you are God and be that is powerful to me. That turns me on. That gets me excited. And I think most men want the woman that they're with to be turned on. So that's why men go out here trying to acquire things, because they know if I acquire this, it's going to exude some type of power, and then I will get that adoration from the woman, But so you just have to know what type of woman you are. But definitely, it is the self-love that you have for yourself that is important in a relationship. Okay. And then Cheeks, she said, I like him, but don't, and never did love him, but he has all the things almost that I need. Ooh, okay. Not sexually attracted to him. Please help. We are married. That's a lot. That's a lot. So
I'm interested in knowing what it is that she needs.
Yeah. You want to come on camera, Cheeks? You want to come on camera? Because we would love to have a conversation with you, because it's like, I would love to know what it is that he needs to give you that you need. I would like more clarity in that. And then XJ said, how important is romance in a long-lasting relationship? It's not important at all. It's really not. It's not, because sometimes you'll have it and sometimes you don't. And when you have it, be thankful. Be thankful for the romance. But if you don't have it, don't feel like your relationship is inadequate. You focusing on the wrong thing. You're not focused on what's important, because we definitely don't have a lot of romance in our relationship, because we have a child and we live in a studio house. So we don't have like a space where him and I can go off and just, go into that fantasy world and do whatever. We don't have that. But I did have to reprogram my mind as to the way that my husband loves me, how he expresses his love. He may not express his love through giving me flowers and chocolates and buying me things, but for him to be supportive, and he makes me laugh, and we do go out and go to the beach and be together as a family. That's important for me. So I look at what we do have instead of focusing on what we don't have, because when I find myself focusing on what we don't have, then that's when I go into that space feeling like I'm not loved or this relationship isn't enough. And that's because my what I'm focused on, my perception, is what's lacking.
Yeah, I think romance is important. I know you said it's not at all, but
yeah. This is an exchange of conversation.
I just think that you have to know that it's gonna fluctuate. That's the thing, that you have to know that there's times in life, like we were saying earlier, like it's real. Being in a relationship is actually a real thing. When you actually engage in a committed relationship where y'all living together, y'all are spending significant time together,
yeah,
that's different. And so there's going to be fluctuations in that. You introduce a child into the equation, the romance is going to fluctuate. The woman's going through things in her own personal life, or the man, the romance is going to fluctuate. So I think overemphasizing romance can sometimes be a detriment to people, because that's all they're able to focus on and see. So in the absence of that, in a period where there's less diminished romance, you will not be able to really function, or you're going to be highly focused on this romance that's lacking, because that's where you choose to put most of your focus and energy, rather than realizing, look, time's going to fluctuate. Sometimes it's going to be really good. Sometimes life is going to come and it's not going to be as much as you would like. But through that, we always resort and come back to purpose, because that's something that is consistent for us on a day-to-day basis. That's the one thing that I think that doesn't fluctuate. is our purpose and what we're offering to the world. That is kind of like the foundation.
And even in purpose, not necessarily what you are offering to the world or what you're offering to yourself. Coming into your purpose is the remembrance of who you are and being that. Okay? And so many of you are looking to that other person to give you purpose. Your relationship is not here to give you purpose. Okay? You are the purpose. And your relationship is going to be the extension of that. Okay? When you start looking outside of yourself for purpose, direction, love, and happiness, you've already lost. Because everything that you're seeking is within you, and everything that you see is an extension of what is within you. So if you are unhappy in your relationship, or if you're not fulfilled in your relationship, you always got to take it back to yourself and be like, okay, what is it that I'm doing? Okay, what is the real issue here? So whatever you want to call your partner or whatever you want to accuse them of, you always have to take it back to yourself, because it's a lack of what you're not giving yourself. And one of the big things, and this is one thing I want to talk about. This is so many things that we want to talk about. But I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Kevin Samuels. Like that's like a big thing right now. It's Kevin Samuels about the high value man and the woman. What is her value to the man? And I feel that is one of the biggest discrepancies and issues in relationships, is that you are looking for that person, because I want you to share what you had said to me about women and about how women are starting to portray themselves. Because and the lady that's in the room, she was talking about, he doesn't give me what I need. And so it's like you're looking for this person to give you something that you need and want that you haven't given yourself. And a lot of times in relationships, you are, instead of you knowing your value, you're looking at the other person's like, what can you give me? That is not what relationships is about. Going into a relationship is not about what that person can give you. It is about what you offer in the relationship. So a lot of times when Kevin Samuels is talking to these women, like, what you want this high value man, what do you give it? None of them can ever answer. And it goes on the other side of men too. Like men, they got Triple A shoulder thinking that women's supposed to be coming a certain way. And I wanted you to talk about, because that's what triggered him. I wanted to do this live. It's just about how people are handling relationships and why they're not working.
Yeah, so I think it was a video that I had seen where a woman was saying, basically, if she can't find a man that's going to improve her life or make her life better, that she's straight with just being by herself, because the life that she has by herself is already good. So unless you're going to enhance that, make it better, don't come my way type of stuff. So, but to me, it was just like, that's a big thing that's happening right now, to where people are searching for the perfect partner, right? This idea of a perfect partner, and it's going back to the idea that there's somebody out there who's going to solve the issues in your own life for you, who's going to provide the things that you're supposed to be providing for yourself, and it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist, and it's not a good way to approach the situation. The reason is because you're looking for somebody who doesn't challenge you. You're looking for somebody who is not going to challenge you in any way, so there's not going to be no growth in that relationship.
Yeah.
You're expecting that the perfect partner is going to come along, and you're romanticizing the idea of relationships, that you're only going to have good times, that you're only going to be engaged in situations that make you feel good. And the reality is that that's not going to be the case. Anytime we engage in a relationship, because of the very nature of who we and what we are, there's going to be differences, there's going to be challenges, and these are things that most people in modern times, the way I see it, are not actively engaged in overcoming. And that's why we have this throwaway culture. Relationships with throwaway. Oh, girl, he doing that to you. You leave him. You got options, or you can do it by yourself. Like, you don't need no man. And the men are like, well, I don't gotta deal with this. So everybody's like throwing away relationships very quickly at the first sign of any challenge, and this creates an atmosphere of just relationships that are so passive. They're coming and going all the time, and people aren't really sticking through with any relationship enough to see if it's actually something worth, sticking with, because they don't even get to that point.
Yeah.
And they don't feel the achievement and the growth that comes with facing the challenges in a relationship, which I think is a detriment to people. People don't realize that there's a benefit in arguing. There's a benefit in not getting along and then coming to an understanding. That I think is the most powerful thing that you can do in a relationship, is to reconcile your differences. You know what I mean? So yeah, that sparked a lot of the conversation that we're talking about.
Okay, well, someone asked, so what can you do when you're working on yourself emotionally and spiritually and the other person is not? Well, in the beginning of our relationship, like when we left and we were here in Hawaii on our own, I felt that
Thank you for using that one.
yeah. I felt that Rambo was not working on himself. I felt that he had a certain mentality. And he was not willing to take responsibility for his life, his choices, and I just felt like he wasn't willing to grow. He didn't want to grow, And so at the time, I was looking at like, he's the problem. He's the issue of not wanting to grow, not wanting, to see his faults. But the more that I kept saying that what he needed to be doing, what he should be doing, I realized it was really me that needed to grow. It was really me that wasn't willing to do the work. Okay? Because you can sit here and be like, well, my partner, they're not willing to grow spiritually. Well, at the end of the day, you gotta focus on you growing emotionally and spiritually. And so maybe that person is in your life to help you grow. Because I guarantee you, Rambo definitely came in my life to help me grow, because especially through communication, especially with emotional awareness, like I'm sitting here pointing a finger that he's the issue, but I'm the issue because I don't know how to handle my emotions with this person. I don't know how to communicate with this person. But I'm saying that it's him the reason why I can't communicate. No, it's me the reason why I can't communicate. It's me that doesn't know how to express how I feel without accusing him of that. It was me. It wasn't him. And so the more I started going within and taking responsibility for my reality, because I do believe that he is in my reality, then he ain't doing nothing. It's all me. So once I started working on communicating and listening, that's when the relationship start opening up for me. I can't speak on his perspective, but I can definitely say when I changed my perspective, when I start growing, that's when I start seeing a transformation in the relationship, because the transformation started with me.
Yeah. And it doesn't seem like that's the right approach sometimes, because of the way we've been conditioned to point the finger all the time.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the natural response that we have.
Yeah.
But the thing is about that approach, about putting it back on yourself, that work that you do on yourself and that introspection that you have comes back to feed the relationship in a positive feedback loop. So you work on yourself and you focus on yourself, and your partner will also be influenced by that, and then they'll start working on themselves, and it creates like this feedback loop. But sometimes you have to be the one to initiate that, even though your partner seems to not have any interest. And at the end of the day, things will naturally sort themselves out. So say you do that and your partner still persists over time not to have any interest, you guys are gonna naturally separate. Like
Yeah.
naturally, it's just gonna be a natural progression of like, well, we're not gonna be together anymore because of the trajectory that our life is taking us. You know, and that'll sort itself out naturally. So you don't even have to worry about that. The only thing you have to worry about is focusing on yourself and what you can do to improve on yourself, because that in any case that will affect the relationship in a positive way, or it will lead to the relationship being discontinued if that is what's necessary.
So what was the pivotal point, or what was the mind shift, I should say, for you in the relationship?
Uh, yeah, I think just embodying my own purpose and really coming into my, like you said, like ownership, owning my life and taking responsibility for my decisions and my reality ultimately, and the situation that I found myself in and that I put myself in, and just knowing that that was a result of my actions, my decisions, and then going forward into that and embodying my own purpose and greatness, kind of just took some of that stress off of the relationship, for the relationship to even grow and flourish. You know, it's like there was too much pressure on that relationship and focus that it wasn't allowed to grow. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So once I put that on myself, the relationship kind of naturally grew and became better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, Fred Parker asks, can I ask you what your sun signs are? I am a Sagittarius with a Leo moon, and he is a Leo with a Virgo moon. So with being in a relationship, a long-term relationship that does not have love as the foundation, what this type of relationship is a healing relationship. You will be healed in this relationship if you allow yourself to be healed, because this will be a relationship that is triggered. There was a lot of triggering in our relationship, okay? Because we didn't have the cover up of liking each other and loving each other. So we were exposed. So any little thing that he did, it bothered me. Any little thing I did, it bothered him. But we learned not to blame the other. We learned that this was a triggering aspect in our relationship, that whatever he did that bothered me, that I didn't like or was a deal breaker, I had to go within myself and ask myself, what is he trying to show me about myself that needs to be healed? You know? And one of the things that I learned through self-love, he taught me how to love myself. He really did, because and being in this relationship and learning true self-love, I really started becoming aware of who I was, my nature, like being honest about who I am and expressing that. Because you get into these relationships and you try to be something for the other partner, right? You want them to like you, you want them to love you, so you do whatever to make them happy, but you're not actually being yourself. And that's not gratifying, to be in a situation to where you're trying to be something for someone else to like you. Well, we didn't have that, because we didn't like each other. So and we wasn't definitely trying to get the other person to like them. Because even when I did find myself trying to get you to like me, it didn't work because we have different interests. But then also what I've learned is not to take things personal. I learned not when he talks to me in a certain way or he does things, I learned not to take it back on me and my worth and my value, you know. And the last thing is, I've learned that this relationship has helped me heal my childhood traumas, because a lot of what you are dealing with in your relationship when you're with that other person, it comes from childhood. The way you learn to relate to a man and woman is through your mother and father. So when you see that man doing a certain thing, you are taking that back to how your father treated you. So that's why a lot of times women be like, I want somebody like my daddy. Or you afraid of men because you think they're going to be like your daddy. Mm-hmm. So you have to so I had a really great father that raised me. So I had this idea of how a man should be. Well, being with Rambo, he is nothing like my father. And they come from a whole nother generation. So when I realized, it's like, look, I'm not marrying my father. I'm not in a relationship with my father. I'm in a relationship with you. So who are you? So I had to learn who I was with in my relationship. It had nothing to do with like. It had nothing to do with love. It's about understanding. You know, because people say love is understanding. Yeah, that's cool, but you can still understand somebody that you don't love. If you could just take away that and be like, I want to understand who I'm with. I want to see who I'm with, because you have your perception and your perspective getting in the way. You have your own intentions of how the relationship should be. Instead of being present in this relationship, your intentions and expectations are there. So when that person doesn't meet them, you mad and you ready to go. And you're ready to put them expectations on someone else. But you can't run from yourself. So you have to ask yourself, what am I expecting in a relationship? Because 9 times out of 10, that person didn't sign up to meet those expectations. You just assumed. So when I see Rambo, I've learned to see who he is as a person. And the more that I'm learning to see who he is, it's like I'm starting to see the value that he brings in the relationship. And the more that I see who I am, the more I see the value I bring in our relationship. You guys are talking tangents.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking about you know how people have such a, like, they have a lot of opportunities to date all these people, and that's what people do, right?
Yeah.
They date a lot of people, you know. And it's crazy that you would think that, given the sheer amount of options that we have, that people would find more people that they're actually more committed to, and that relationships will be better off. But it seems like the more options you have, the less successful, or the less longevity these relationships have, you know. Because I think about, like, say we're in a tribal setting, right? And there wouldn't be an option to be dating 50, 60 people throughout your life for you to figure out who's the right person. It would be a very limited amount of people that you could potentially engage in and have a marriage or relationship with. So I think that it wasn't about finding the perfect person. It couldn't have been, because what are the chances that that perfect person happens to be right in part of your community, right?
Yeah.
So I just think that the perspective that we operate from is like so, and also we have to ask, what are the results? If searching for love or engaging in relationships based off of love is a good thing, what are the results that we are seeing from this behavior? Yeah. Are people marrying longer? Are people more fulfilled in their marriages? Are marriages harmonious? Are they building throughout multiple generations? Like, what are the effects of the way we engage in relationships? And if you see the trend, it's not that at all. It's actually going the other way, to where divorce rates are at an all-time high. This toxic relationships are the staple of you know, modern civilization. Everybody's engaged and romanticizes and idolizes toxic relationships. That's what we see on the TV. Love and hip hop. These people like going at each other, like they idolize that, you know. So it's like, for me, it's like, what are the results that you're wanting? And if what we're doing isn't working, well, maybe we should change our strategy so that we can get results that we actually do want, you know. And I think that's when we come in and be like, look, we didn't even know it at first, because we didn't proactively like be like, oh, let's engage in a relationship based on purpose. No, we found ourselves in a relationship based on purpose, and then saw the benefits from that and how it made us grow, and how that's actually throughout time has strengthened our relationship and has brought us closer together. But that wasn't a choice that we consciously made. It's kind of just what happened and unfolded. So now, being in that, we're like coming back to y'all and being like, oh, look, this is what happened, and there's some benefit in this.
Yeah,
you know?
That's exactly what happened. And Noki said, so do you two love each other since you grew and became better? Well, it depends on the day. It's like, really, it's just like, it depends on the time of day when you want to ask yourself. Because when we think about that love, like, no, we can't let you hit us. We can't let you throw things at us in.
Then you can't let you do that.
Do you need attention? So y'all saw that. So I'm just gonna continue because he's tending to Zen right now. But it depends on the day. You asked me and Rambo if we love it like each other, okay? But I do to not be so condescending. I do love Rambo. Like, there is this love that I have grown with Rambo. And I had heard somebody say they're not falling in love with someone, they're standing in love. And that's exactly what Rambo and I are doing. We are standing in love with each other. Some days we love each other, I'm sure. Some days he don't love me, some days I don't love him. And there's definitely days where I don't like him, you know. But the reason why we can say that so freely is because we're not held to bondage in loving or liking each other. Remember, don't gotta love me and he don't gotta like me. You know, I love me. I like me. Okay? And it's my responsibility in this relationship of how I'm going to represent myself. I don't need him to love me and like me to be a good wife, to be a good mother, to be a good person, and to be in my purpose. I don't need your love, thank you. And if you love me, you should. Like, okay, we need to be looking at it like that. Be like, oh, you love me. Oh, okay, and now what? You love me, now what we going to do with that? Right? So it's always about what you are bringing in the relationship, what you're willing to take responsibility in the relationship. And it does not matter if that person loves you or likes you or not. Now, when I say if they don't love you and like you, you have boundaries and standards in the relationship, right? Because I'm hearing about how men don't want to be with women that challenge them. When I hear that, when a man says he don't want to be with a woman that challenges him or a strong woman, what you're telling me is that you don't have any solid standards or boundaries. That's why you need to be with a woman that acts a certain way. When I hear a person say, I can only be around certain people because I can't handle certain people, that just lets me know you have not identified your standards and boundaries and how to communicate your wants and needs. Because it should not matter what the other person is doing. It's all about you and how you respond to it. And so this is what I learned with my husband. A lot of times he can be very not compromising, right? He want to do things the way he want to do it. So I can either fight that, or I can either go along with him, or I could be like, you know what, I want to go do something else. It just depends on what I'm wanting to do, because I believe a relationship, a long-term relationship, should be filled with freedom. You know, it should be filled with growth. It should be healing, transformational, and it should be fun. You know, and not coming from the other person, coming from yourself. Okay? Coming from yourself. So if you feel like you need to be with a certain type of person because you don't know how to handle them, then you got work to do. Not people, because you're never going to be around anybody that's going to be perfect and is not going to ruffle your feathers. You need your feathers ruffled so that you can heal, so that you can bring all that crap to the surface and be pure, positive light, love. At the end of the day, that's all you want. You just want peace. You just want to be happy. You just want to be loved. But in order for you to do that, you need to get rid of the blockages that are not allowing you to receive it. So once I start removing the blockages, once my husband start removing the blockages of receiving joy and happiness and love, then that's when we were actually able to give it to each other. But if you're focused on what they're not doing, then that's what you're going to get. You're going to get exactly what you're focused on. And is it easy? No, it is not easy. But it's not supposed to be easy. So you know, you can make it as easy as you want it to be. Okay? It has nothing to do with that person. And I'm going to tell you right now, if that person is not going to grow with you and going to come into alignment with you, they're going to leave. You don't have to leave a relationship. And when you leave, you take your baggage with you. Okay? You don't want to leave. You want them to leave, because when they leave, they take that shit with them. And now you have space to receive, you know, what it is that you want. So you don't want to get into the mindset of when they piss you off or when they do something that make you mad that you're going to leave. Yeah, you're going to leave and you're going to take that same energy with you. And then you wonder why every single relationship is the same. You're dealing with the same thing, but for some reason you're thinking it's them. At 4 relationships in, you're thinking it's them and not you. And you want to identify your childhood traumas, because that's what the person that you're in an emotional, intimate relationship with, they're going to bring up that childhood itch. And being in this relationship with my husband, he has helped me. He has assisted in me healing my childhood trauma. You know, with abandonment, not feeling worthy enough of love. He has assisted me in that. Because I'm not in a relationship that is built on love and all of this and that, you would think, well, what if he leaves you? What if he leaves you for someone that he does love? That is my abandonment demons talking. And so I have to accept that that is a possibility, that he could leave me. But what does that have to do with me? What does that have to do with me if someone leaves me? Or it has nothing to do with me. They left because they chose to leave. I'm enough. I'm worthy. But just because they didn't see me in a place in their life does not take that away. So being in this type of relationship where your security ain't based on how much they love and adore you will strengthen you. Will strengthen the love that you have for yourself, because I love myself. I really do. And I'm not going to allow anyone, not even my husband, to suppress that love that I have for myself. But loving yourself does not mean that somebody need to come to you and be like, well, what do you have to offer? No, loving yourself is knowing what you have to offer. And not accepting less from that other person. So the person that was in the room talking about, he doesn't give me what I need. You let me know that you don't even know what you need. You don't know what you need, because if you knew what you needed, you wouldn't be looking for him to give it to you. But then she also said she didn't have a father in her life. So that tells you a lot. But yeah, Zen is a Scorpio. But the number one thing in relationships that will trigger everyone, and this is something that I want you guys to all focus in improving your life, is emotional awareness. See, when you get into these relationships, what they make you be aware of is your emotions. Whether or not you can handle them or not can handle them. Okay? That's why you get into these relationships, to become empowered. Because when you're on your own and you're single, it's all about you. You ain't gonna get triggered, but you're not being aware of yourself and who you are. But once you get into these relationships, what they do, they trigger you. They trigger your emotions. So you must learn how to communicate through your emotions. You must identify what triggers your emotions. And you must allow that other person, and that you're in a relationship, to express their emotions too. And when you are in a long-term relationship, you want to learn how to validate each other's emotions. And that's really hard, because when a person comes to you expressing how they feel and how you made them feel, the first thing you want to do is attack. And you cannot attack your partner. You have to let them know, I see you, I hear you, you know, and what can we do about this? But most of the time, we all on the defense, be like, well, no, I didn't, you did it, and you're wrong, and I'm right, and you hurt my feelings, and you're a bad person, you need to go. And it's a time for you to open yourself. This is how you learn to be vulnerable. This is how you truly learn to be intimate with one another. It's when you create a space that will allow you to express your emotions and your feelings, and not be made to feel bad about that. And when you can do that, you can be in a relationship with anyone. I'm telling you. So King IA said, so you can make a relationship work, but the other person has to be willing as well, right? No. Because you don't get, this is the reason why I say this. I don't want to say, yeah, it takes two to make a relationship work. No, I don't want to say that. You want to know, you know what I think? I think that it doesn't matter if the other person is doing the work, because you don't get to say when it's time for them to grow. You don't get to say when it's time for their transformation. So in the meantime, while they're over there being their despicable selves and not wanting to meet you where you at, you need to let them be over there. Because there was a lot of times in my relationship with Rambo, I didn't talk to him. I was just like, you know what? You can be that way. I'm not even going to give you no energy. I'm going to come over here and give myself energy. Or if I see that we're arguing a lot, and I'll let go and be like, you know what? I'm focusing too much on you. I need to focus on myself. That's how I know where I am putting too much energy in Rambo, is when I find there's a lot of tension, because I'm probably putting my nose in his business. I'm probably overstepping my boundary with him, and that's why we're arguing. So I need to go over here and tend to myself, and so we can come back to love and togetherness. Okay? That's how you know. So don't worry about whether or not the person is going to do the work. Worry about yourself. Worry about make sure you're doing the work. And that person is probably, like I said in this live, that person is there to help you do the work. How you going to grow when they're doing everything right? When they're doing everything to please you? How you going to grow? How you going to grow? So they're there to help you grow. They're what's the word? Discord, is there to help you get better. The contrast is where you grow. You don't grow when everything is all good and happy. You grow when adversity hits, when challenges are happening, when obstacles, or when they talking to you in a way that you don't like. That's when you grow, because you can decide to go above what they're doing, or you can go in it with them. Okay? That's how you grow. And the more you do that, eventually they're going to have to grow with you, because you're not putting out that same energy. Everything is energy, so whatever energy they're putting out, and if you're putting it out, then there you go. But if they're putting out the energy and you're on a whole nother frequency, then they're either going to have to meet you there, or they're going to bounce out. That's just how energy works. Okay. Oh, Kid May says, how did you know that he was the one? I don't know that Rambo's the one. He ain't the one to do what? What you the one to do? What you gonna do? But yeah, I don't know if Rambo is the one. See, that's that romanticizing shit. I'm looking for the one. The one to do what? What you want them to do?
Yeah, it's just so vague, right? Like the one to what? To make you feel happy. The one to bring you fulfillment. The one
to all be all that you're gonna be.
The one to spend the rest of your life with. Like that's the kind of thing that we're talking about, to where there's this perception of relationships that is not founded in anything like tangible. It's kind of a romanticized perception of relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, right. I didn't know you were still talking. Yeah. So there is no one. Like, it is what you can decide to.
You are the one.
You are the one. But there is. I don't look at Rambo as being the one.
That's putting too much responsibility on something outside of yourself.
Yeah, Rambo is my. I call him my husband, because that's how I look at him, and he takes care of me like a husband should. So I give him that, and he's my friend. He's starting to be my friend now. Don't be shy. Don't see right now, y'all. Rambo being modest, but when this camera's not on, he a whole other person. I'll keep it real. Okay, he'll be like. But no, we're starting to be really starting to be friends. Like, he be cracking me up, and lovers. We trying to be lovers, but we need another room, okay? But I'm just saying that we're growing, and we definitely see where we came from and where we are now, and that's it. Like, he's the one right now. I'm the one right now, but we don't make those things mean anything. Okay, I'm very proud of us and how you and I are like co-parenting, and and raising Zen. And that's another thing about in a relationship, is that you have to identify how you and this person are going to raise children. And because me and Rambo, we have the same purpose, it definitely has made it easier for us. So what we're saying is, if you're going to be in this type of relationship where it's not based on love and infatuation and sex, you have to have a relationship based on purpose, shared value. And I say purpose within knowing who you are and that other person, but then also shared values, because that is what's going to solidify your relationship, is that you and this person have shared values. Because I've seen a lot of people that be in these love-based relationships, but then they learn they don't have the same values. Like a lot of you I see, you know, you're spiritually growing and, you know, you want to be a certain way, but then this person's still in the streets, or this person is still in the other world, and they're not really wanting to go there with you. So with Rainbow and I, at least we had that shared value and purpose together. So that's really what keeps us going, is because we have the same values. Because it's going to be a little challenging to be with someone that doesn't share your values. You know, not saying it couldn't work, but it's definitely going to be challenging.
I think it's also really about maturity. Like,
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people engaged in relationships aren't mature, or aren't allowing themselves to go through the process that will make them mature. Like we just talked about having kids. Like, in the development of a person, that process of having a child will develop, if you stick it out, will develop characteristics in you that you otherwise could not develop. Because you have to deal with a child who you have to basically take care of, and they don't know what they're doing. You have to guide them, and there's all these things that don't apply, like, to you, right?
Yeah.
Like how I treat Zen and what he does not apply to you. So I think that things like that, and also being engaged in a serious relationship, because I think a lot of times when you talk about relationships, what people look at relationships as is like the person that they fucking, or the person that they dating, or they're just seeing. But that's not a real relationship. Like, you only get to see what a relationship is like once you get to live and spend a significant portion of your time with that person. That's a real relationship. That's when you see the real things. And
then that's when when relationship starts to get
That's
real,
when
that's when people are like, I want a divorce. This ain't working.
Right. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, that process is designed to mature you into a different person.
Yeah.
But if you don't go through that process, you'll always be stuck in this immature stage of like, oh, we just dating. Like, oh, it's just all fun and games. The sex is good. All this shit is like immature shit. That shit that you should have left a long time ago. But because you're not willing to grow and become the person that you're supposed to become, you leave before that can happen.
Yeah.
You know? And so I think that that's what this has taught me. Sticking through has matured me as a person. Having a child and dealing with a child has matured me as a person. And just sticking through that, I think, gives me growth in my own personal development.
Yeah, I definitely see that for sure. Delaney said, what if he left and went with someone else, made a mistake, then wants to come back? Yeah, that's a big question. Okay, she said, what? Because I want to tell you that they always come back. Don't make it mean anything when someone comes back. When someone comes back, it's because they're not willing to go out and seek something that's not familiar. The reason why a person try to come back to you, is because it's familiar, it's safe. I know you. I know your shit. I can deal with that. But if I had to go out into the world and find someone new, then I gotta start over. So, first and foremost, I want to like clear that with everyone that be like, oh, they came back, so it's meant to be. No, they always come. Everybody that you be with, they gonna come back in your life one way or the other. Like, either to be your friend or to rekindle what you had. Now, my question to you, Delaney, is what happened to make the relationship end? How was the relationship? Was it a good relationship? Did you know, like, what type of relationship was this? And do you want to continue that relationship? And you know what I mean? So you just that's a question for you. Supersonic says, sis, you saying to be with someone with the same value. Yo, when you are in a relationship with someone that's not built on love and infatuation, you want to find a person that is built on purpose and share the same values as you. See, that's where it shifts. Values and purpose switched from love and like and sex. Okay? Because there are people out there that in relationships that love each other and they just like, oh, it was love at first sight, the sex is bomb, and it's all this and that. There are relationships out there, but they're the exception to the rule. And the reason why we know they're the exception to the rule is because look at the divorce rate. Look at how many people are out here single. Look at people like Kevin Samuels that is like very popular because women are trying to figure out how to get a man and keep him. Okay? So this is why we're telling you that you have to know these things. You have to be aware of these things. You either have this type of relationship or you have this relationship, but don't throw away the relationship with value and purpose, because it will be more sustaining. And you will really be able to be yourself in this relationship. Because a lot of times people get in relationships to be what the other person wants. And you don't want that. It's important. You just need to know that people always come back. And you have every right to go back to this relationship. But you need to be aware of why they left in the first place. And what type of relationship was this. And do you want to continue to be in that relationship? Don't get caught up because you're lonely. Don't get caught up because that's what happens. We get lonely and then we just pick anyone.
Right. That's always easier to rekindle with somebody that you already know than to like pursue a brand new relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
That's definitely going to be a factor as well.
Yeah. So before we go, what are some things that you learned about being in a relationship with me? What are you seeing that's growth for you in things that were probably like you was just like you couldn't stand and it was just like absolutely not, but then over time you're like, well, it's not.
Yeah, with you is mostly been learning a lot about communication and setting boundaries and being direct. Basically learning the qualities that you naturally have. And I think, I don't want to speak for you, but I think I've had a similar effect on you as well.
You think so? Okay.
Okay. Maybe not, but that's my perception.
What was the one thing you didn't like about the relationship?
Yeah, at first it was challenging because at first I really wasn't attracted to you. When we first got together, like you were in a whole different state, even physically, like than you are now. So I think the more you've gotten like healthier and like, just growing more into a better place.
Yeah.
Like I have become more attracted to you, which has also helped the relationship. And the more we have sex and the more we have good sex, the more that kind of solidifies the bond as well.
Yeah.
And that's an important piece, but I had to be patient for a while.
Yeah.
To not put so much focus on that,
Y'all hear that, y'all? Y'all hear that? And they say with men, sex is important. And it was hard for me because I knew that Rainbow wasn't attracted to me like that. Like I was attracted to him, but he wasn't attracted to me. And just like what he said, if any of you have been like following our journey, I look totally different than what I look like now, and it was very disheartening to be in a relationship with a man that did not find me attractive sexually or physically. Okay, even though we had sex, but it definitely wasn't desirable sex. Okay, so what I had to learn within myself because of that was a lot of times women, we think the value of who we are is our pussy. We think, oh, give man sex and be sexy and show off your body. That'll get you a man and keep a man. And for me, that just wasn't the case because he didn't find me attractive. And I've never been in a relationship with a dude that didn't find me attractive. And I thought my sex appeal and I thought my vagina was my asset. Well, being in a relationship with Rambo made me realize that my value was much more than that because I couldn't use that as a weapon. And a lot of times women, we use our pussies as weapons to get men and keep men. But I didn't have that. That gun didn't have no bullets. So I'm like, damn, now what? So I had to learn how to find my confidence in something else and not what was between my legs. And then that's when I started tapping into my mind and my intelligence and my heart and my kindness and love, because my pussy wasn't going to do it. Even my looks wasn't going to do it. And so it made me reach further as to what can I contribute to this relationship besides sex. And as I continue to nourish myself and get healthy and get fine again, then here he comes. Now I can't keep him off of me. I'm like, oh my God. Like, you know what I mean? And but that's also something we have to work on as well as the sex, because I got used to our sex life being a certain way, and so now him and I are really starting to be really attracted to each other, because I'm like, if you're not attracted to me, I ain't attracted to you. So him and I was just like, you know what I mean? We wasn't really attracted to each other. I find him attractive, but if you're not finding me attractive, then that ain't gonna turn me on. And so now that him and I are at this point where we're both attracted to each other, like the sex really has improved, and the love, the infatuation, the romance has improved. So we're not saying that love and romance ain't ever gonna be in a relationship. We're just saying, don't use it as the foundation to your relationship. Don't think it has to start off that way. So the love and infatuation that Rambo and I are having with each other is solid. It's coming from a true, authentic space, and it's going to grow more and more and more, because a lot of times when you start a relationship off there, then it fizzles out, and then what? You still going to have to come to the point of where me and Rambo are, but a lot of people won't make it, because they be like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm looking for that old feeling.
Usually the relationships, the common relationship starts off with a climax, and it only gets decreases from there.
Yep.
And I just feel like our relationship is the complete opposite. Like, we started from zero, and as we progress, it has been increasing. It has been getting better, and we have been getting more intimate, more attracted, and just growing. Like, so I just think it's a complete opposite of what most people experience, to where the first time they're with somebody in the initial stages, that's the best as it gets, and it only gets worse from there.
That's true. King said, how did you first get together? We mentioned this in the beginning, but we actually met in a group, a cult. For layman's term, a cult. We met in a cult back in 2017 in Costa Rica. That's how we met.
Fun fact.
Yeah, fun fact. We were in the cult together. And Delaney said, I started to allow him to talk to me a way I didn't like or didn't want our daughter to see. But I understand he was stressed about making money and had his own issues. Well, and also, Delaney, you didn't have, the reason why he talked to you any type of way was because you didn't have a standard of how you wanted to be treated. So you saying that I didn't want my daughter to see that, what your daughter needed to see is how you handle someone that's talking to you in a way that you don't like. But what you probably did, you probably didn't react. You probably reacted to the situation, or you probably ran away from it. So that's what you teaching your daughter. Like, I don't know how you responded to him when he was doing all of that. Supersonic says some men don't come to restore; they come for money and sex, and that hurts us women. Well, the reason why it hurts you women is because that is who you are. If you are attracting a man that doesn't want to restore and is only there for money and sex, 9 times out of 10, that's what you're putting out. Because if you're putting out that you're a woman of value and a woman of standards and boundaries, you're not going to get certain types of people. Because when certain type of people come, you're going to see it. They're going to have the red flags, and you're going to be like, oh no. But if you allow these type of people to come into your life, it's because they are reflecting something that you are familiar with, you're comfortable with. And so when you start seeing it and it start playing out in your life, instead of you identifying to it, you are pointing the finger and saying it's them, but really it's you. Yeah, so Delaney said non-confrontational. I never raised my voice ever or fight back. But did you communicate though? Did you set boundaries though? That's the thing. Yes. Kid May says, oh, you are what you attract. Exactly. So the reason why Rambo and I was having issues, because him and I was the same person. The things that Rambo and I argued about or didn't like about each other, that was a hard pill for me to swallow, Rambo. I had to realize that it was me. Because one of the things Rambo don't like about me is that he didn't like the way I talked to him. He thought the way I talked to him was disrespectful and it was a little bit too much. But then the thing I like about him is the way he talked to me. So it didn't connect with us for a very long time until we realized, oh my gosh, we both don't like the way the other one is talking to the other. Like, even though Rambo may not be like expressive and like this with me, Rambo definitely can talk to me in a way that pisses me off. Okay? He definitely knows how to like talk to me in a way that does not make me feel heard and it's disrespectful, but he does it in his way, and then he say I do that to him. And so when we realized that, we were like, man, we really have to work on learning how to communicate with each other, right? And then trying to tell each other what to do. He thought he'd be like, I'd be telling him what to do, but then he turned around and he tried to tell me what to do. So it's like, so we realized what we did not like in each other. We were just mirroring that back to the other person. And so now when Rambo and I get into arguments, because we still do, it's like we can only be upset for so long when we realize, damn, she just reflecting me to myself. And then that's when we're like, then that's when we have to come to Jesus moment and talk to each other, and we can't blame each other because we realize that we do that to the other. So when you get to that point in your relationship, dealing with discrepancies are going to be easier because you're going to take responsibility, because you know that person is only showing you yourself. So now how are we going to rectify this situation?
Yeah, I think that the lag time gets shorter, right? The time between you having a disagreement and then coming to a resolution, it starts to get shorter and shorter. You know? At first, it might take a while, but the more you practice this, what we're talking about, of always, you know, bringing it back to yourself, seeing the role that you play in it, and then improving on yourself, and setting boundaries, communicating effectively, all these things, the more you put them into practice over time, it's going to shorten that time period to where, you know, you might go days before, you know, in arguing and not talking or not resolving the conflict. Now it just might take a couple hours or whatnot, you know.
And then sometimes me and Rambo, we get mad at each other. Sometimes we don't even talk to each other. We just let it diffuse out. He'll go outside, I'll stay inside, and then we'll move on from it. Not everything has to be resolved, because sometimes we might just get upset. Sometimes we might get frustrated with each other, and there don't have to always be a resolution.
Or you just see what happened and you understand what happened, and and that's it, you know.
But that's only on certain things. It's not on things that might be underlying. I feel like I know the difference. I don't know if you are aware of the difference of underlining arguments where we gotta address it because it's something underlying versus something that is petty. Because we be having some petty arguments. It'd be like them petty ones where we arguing about something that got nothing to do with us. It'd be the type of argument. We be arguing about something we saw on YouTube.
That's not how you pronounce that word.
Or just a hypothetical thing. And we sitting here arguing about that shit. And it's like, I'm not about to sit here and continue to argue about something that got nothing to do with us. Like, so stuff like that. Okay, Delaney said, I can see how I was wrong in doing that. I would ask him to communicate in a different way. Thanks for talking to me about this. Yeah, and if you're going to get back into that relationship, before you get back into that relationship, you need to identify your standards and boundaries of what you're not going to accept. Because I'm going to tell you right now, he going to come back as the same person. You're going to go back as the same person. I don't give a damn if he say he left and changed and all and that, did this and that. When he get back with you, you're going to trigger the same behavior. So he might feel different because he wasn't around your ass, but then when he come back, whatever vibration that y'all left off on, it's gonna come back, and you're gonna see the same thing. So if I were you with yourself, create standards and boundaries, identify what went wrong in the relationship, what was the issue, and then if you do decide to be back with him, then make sure you have a standard. Be like, oh, nip that shit in the bud real quick, and it might work or it may not. Oh, Anoki said, I'm afraid of getting back on a dating scene after being single for a while. Listen to this, give me some great points. I'm happy, Anoki. Yeah, there's nothing that you have to be afraid of, because, and I see this a lot from women, because they're afraid of meeting like a dude that's going to take advantage of them, or meet a guy that ain't shit. Well, you want to know this as soon as possible. So your standards and boundaries are going to help you identify that real quick. And I'm going to tell you right now, the majority of the people that you're going to meet, they're not going to be for you, and that's okay. And the more people you can get through that ain't going to be for you, then you're going to come across a person that is for you. That's just how it works. But if you are too afraid and keep yourself in the house, then your numbers are going to be low and you're not going to have any opportunity. But the only way that you can work on yourself and fully heal, you have to be in a relationship. Because right now your life might be at peace, you might be good, it'd be like, yeah, I'm healing, I'm doing this. Wait till you get in a relationship with a person and they're going to show you everything that you're not. Okay, they're going to trigger everything that you suppress, because you don't have to do that when you are single. And a lot of times people that are single, it's because you have to identify what your value that you bring. That's why you see so many women, and even men, I can only speak for the women that are single and rather be single and rather take care of themselves and don't need no man. It's because you're not willing to do what it takes to be in a relationship. You haven't done the work to even know what your value is. Maybe you haven't identified your value. And so when you get in a relationship, that's why it's hard. That's why you deal with the things that you deal with, because you don't know who you are and what you bring to the table. You gotta always self-reflect it back to you, okay? And even with the men, like, it's like you probably single because you're not willing to do what it takes. Relationships are not easy when you are dealing with another person. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. It requires some type of effort and allowing, but it doesn't require you just to be in there and not have any standard. You know what I mean? And not have a voice, but it requires you to communicate. It requires you to love even when you don't feel like loving someone. Even though I laugh at Rambo say, depends on the day, I love Rambo. I really do. And, because of everything that we've been through, sometimes the light factor isn't there, but I definitely love him, and he's definitely shown me that he's someone that I can grow with, and that makes me love him more and more every day. He allows me to have a life to where I can do what I want, because he's the provider. He's the main one providing. And I thank him for that. And I love him for that. I don't want no bum, so, and I don't think most of us do. So it's like, I do want to put honor where honor should, be at. Like, I'm very thankful that, you are my partner, because it definitely could be different. Like, I don't have to work a job. I get to be a stay-at-home mom. I get to, like, express myself and do the things that make me happy. And you create a space for me to do that. And I'm very thankful.
I think that's important to say, like, there is, because it seems like everything we said was like you were basically going to go through it if you choose to engage in a relationship. Like, you're going to be tested, but also, like, there's a lot of comfort and things that come with being in a relationship. Like, you cook food for us, you provide meals for us, and you keep me on my path when I'm slipping. You remind me of shit that I need to be doing and stuff like that. So it's just like we mutually benefit one another, but we also mutually challenge the other. And that shouldn't keep you from a relationship, though, because that's part of it. There's bitters and there's sweets, and they're both necessary, and enjoy both of them, because there's things to be learned from and growth to be had through both the whole thing, all of it, the whole process.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, so if you guys don't have any more questions, we're going to go. And yes, this live is going to be up on my page. And I thank everyone for participating and being a part of this discussion. I think Rambo and I, we're going to start having these type of conversations more about relationships and just different things, that we see. Because it is a big topic. A lot of people are afraid to put themselves out there, and then there's this division with man and woman, who's right, who's wrong. Everybody trying to tell everybody what they should be doing. We just had our perspective that is healthy and balanced, because I feel that a lot of these perspectives out here is just tearing down one from the other, but the man and woman is a reflection of each other. So whatever flaw or whatever fault you see in the woman, that same flaw and fault is in the man, and vice versa. You can't have one without the other. So if there's a problem in one community, it's a problem in the other community. And that's what we, as myself and Rambo, want to bring to the awareness, is that we all need to come together, and that we're all at fault. But in order for us to come together, there's certain things that one must identify within themselves before you start pointing the finger at everybody else. So, you have any closings?
I think you wrapped it up
Okay.
pretty good.
All right. So we love you guys, and
Stay balanced.